Hey, I'm Stephanie, and today I'm testing out a foundation created by a musician. It's this Triclone Skin Tech foundation by Lady Gaga's brand Haus. Today's just going to be my first impressions, but I will be sharing application footage and a wear test, so I thought we could all kind of see what this is like together. As always, I'll leave timestamps so you can hop, skip, and jump to whatever's most relevant for you. And now we're going to go back in time to barefaced me and see what this looks like when it's applied. Hello! The only primer I'm going to be wearing on my face today is my Beauty of Joseon sunscreen because I'm traveling, but my primer is not. I packed in a bit of a frenzy and I forgot a whole bunch of stuff, including my Bobbi Brown face base. But I don't think it's too big of a deal because I don't wear primer every single time that I wear foundation. But if I'm wearing foundation during the day, I'm always wearing a sunscreen underneath. And this one is pretty neutral. I feel like it soaks in well enough that it's not going to change the finish of the foundation. So I actually think it's a pretty good way to test this one. I will be applying the shade 200 Light Medium Neutral today, and I have no idea if this is a good shade match for me or not because this isn't my foundation. A friend of mine was kind enough to lend this to me so that I would have enough time to test it out, gather my thoughts, and do a full review. So although today is a first impressions, I will be wearing this on my face all week. And then I will post a full in-depth review once I've had time to gather my thoughts. So if you're interested in hearing the final thoughts on this foundation, then make sure you subscribe, like this video, all that jazz, so that you can see more. But now comes the moment of truth, when I paint my face with it. So today I will be using my Sonia G Jumbo Base Brush from her Fusion line, and I'm going to start off with just a very small amount because I've never used this before, and I don't want to overdo it. I don't know what this looks like on camera, especially because I'm using a different setup while I'm traveling. Instead of using my normal camera, I'm just using my phone. So all of this is a little new to me, but at least when I look in the monitor, I feel like it looks very nice, and it looks like it has tamped down the redness. And when I look at it in my mirror over here, I feel like it looks like I did nothing except put like an anti-redness filter on my face because I can still see some of the imperfections on my skin, but I don't see foundation. And I also don't see redness. And for someone with rosacea, this is really exciting. But before I get too excited, I'm going to finish it putting it at least on one half of my face so that we can see more of a difference. Now that I have it on one whole half of my face, let's compare. And I hope that you'll tell me how it's coming across on camera in the comments, just because I've never recorded like this before. So I'm curious to see if this setup works. My thoughts remain the same. I feel like it's a redness filter. My skin still looks like skin. I can still see the imperfections a little bit, but they're just kind of faded, blurred out. It's like a nice filter, but it's a natural looking one. And for someone like me who enjoys wearing makeup, I don't mind if you can see that I'm wearing makeup. But when it comes to my skin, I do like to keep that as natural looking as possible. So the fact that this is relatively light coverage doesn't bother me at all. Now that I have a thin layer on my entire face, when I looked in the mirror just now, I felt like it looks as if I'm not wearing any foundation. But my skin is perfected. It's not perfect. It has just been given a nudge in the right direction, and I like that look. The finish of it is radiant. It's pretty dewy, but it's not as dewy as some foundations that I've tried, and so I feel like it just looks as if I just freshly applied my moisturizer. And so for me, that means I'm going to have to powder it down because I have oily combination skin. But since this is a first impressions, I think I'm going to apply just a little bit more in my cheek area where I have more intense redness, just to see how much the coverage can be built up. So now I have a second layer on this side, but not on this side. And my question to you is, do you see a difference? Was I able to build up any coverage? In real life, that did give me a little bit more impact, but not much. And so I do think that this foundation is right in describing itself as a medium coverage. And so I think I'm going to leave my cheeks like this, with this one having more coverage and this one having just the one layer, just to see if there's any difference in the wear, since, we're doing a wear test today anyway. And now I think what I'm going to do is putter around the house for 10 minutes, and then I will come back and we can see how this dries down without any powder. So it has been 10 minutes, and I feel like the finish is still pretty dewy. It hasn't really changed that much. But what I'd be curious to see is if the color has changed. And right before I went and made my coffee, I put a swatch on my hand, which is right here. And so what I'm going to do is put a fresh swatch on, and then we can see if there's a difference between the colors. This is what the color looks like when it has been drying down for 10 minutes, and this is what the color looks like when it's fresh. So there is a difference. So we've now seen evidence that this formula does change color slightly as it dries down. And that's something that's really normal, but it is good to know, because that means that if you go into store to swatch this and do some color matching, then you'll know that after you swatch it, you're going to want to wander around the store for a few minutes and let it settle into its final color before choosing your shade. So now that we've seen that there's a difference in the dry down, let's also test for oxidation. I used to get very confused between those two terms, but I have since learned the difference, and it has been really helpful to me as I've been color matching different foundations. And so I thought I would share it today. In a nutshell, dry down is what we just saw, and that's what happens when the moisture from the foundation soaks into your skin or evaporates into the air, letting the pigment dry. And that dry color of the pigment, that's the ultimate or real color, is what we end up with. That's the dry down. And it's something that most foundations do. They have a slightly different color when they dry down. Oxidation, on the other hand, is a different process, and not all foundations will display noticeable oxidation throughout the day. And that's why it's important for me, at least, to try to differentiate between the two terms. Oxidation is a chemical process that actually changes the color of the foundation throughout the course of the day. And it's the same sort of thing that happens to like apples or avocados when they start to turn brown, or silver when it tarnishes, and it will tend to turn foundations darker or more orangey. So when I did this swatch, I also added an extra swatch down here. I don't know if you can see it, but basically this one has the potential to actually survive throughout the day. And so I thought that when I come in to do my final check-in, then we can see if the color has also oxidized. Now that my foundation and swatches are applied, I'm going to apply the rest of my makeup and then go gallivanting, and then I'll check in and we'll see how it all holds up. It has been just a little over 8 hours since I applied this. It's been 8 hours and 11 minutes. So I thought I would check in and we could see how it wore throughout the day. I really wanted to do some pictures in natural light, but it has been really stormy here today and I didn't want to get drenched, and I figured that wouldn't really help the process anyway. So we're stuck with some artificial light, but I'm going to get in closer to the camera now so that you can hopefully get a closer look at what's actually happening on my face right now. So how do I think that this wore throughout the day? I think it did a pretty good job. It's not gathering in any of my fine lines, like my smile lines or in my forehead or under my eyes. And the only place that I found that it's really gathering is the sides of my nose where I have particularly large pores. But to be honest, that's something that happens with every single foundation I have. So had it not happened with this one, I would have been shocked and amazed. But I'm going to see throughout the week if different application methods can maybe improve that. We'll see. But in general, I feel like this wore really nicely. When it came to the shine, my oils definitely did come throughout the day. I didn't touch up with any more powder. And so any dewiness that you're seeing now is just from the oils on my skin and me not touching up. There is one area where I think it might have faded, but I'm not sure if it's just because I applied less foundation on my chin or if it's because I touch my chin a lot when I'm working. You know, I'll rest my hand on my chin. And so I'm wondering if maybe that's what did it. So that's going to be something I'm going to pay attention to as I do my more thorough review. I'll be seeing if there's any other areas that tend to get patchy, but I wouldn't say that this is patchy. I just feel like there's less coverage there now. And so I'm going to have to be aware of exactly how much I put on next time. When it comes to the oxidation test, let's take a look at the swatches. I put this swatch on my arm this morning and I put this swatch on my arm about 10 minutes ago. So this swatch is dried down, but hasn't oxidized yet. And this one, it looks like it's darker, which tells me that this foundation oxidizes. Luckily, it doesn't look orange. It just looks a little bit darker. And the color difference isn't horribly dramatic, but you know, it's just something that's good to know. So now I'm just looking forward to testing this foundation out for the rest of the week. I'll be trying different application methods. I have at least one primer that I can test this with, so I'll see if that makes a difference. And if you have any questions about this foundation you'd like me to answer, make sure to let me know in the comments so I can try to take those things into account when I come back and give you my full thoughts. If you liked this video, then I hope you'll consider subscribing, giving it a thumbs up, saying hi in the comments, all that jazz. But even if you don't, have a wonderful week, and let's all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.